All right. This one's even further outside of my wheelhouse than an open Sicilian. But I think I may have learned some things by analyzing this, whereas the other one I was still just kind of confused and wanted to ask you what happened. But
Okay.
this one I'm hopeful that I've learned something. So everybody, this is a normal Catalan kind of position with the knight on d2. The black bishop could be on d6 or e7. It's sort of a closed Catalan, and white has one option to sort of like open it quickly with e4. You can also play, b3, bishop b2, rook d1, those kind of moves first.
Yeah, I think White's already misplayed it a little bit. Black should be fine here when normally he wouldn't equalize with this setup, but yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've had this exact position many times.
Yeah, here I think Black is fine, but I believe that White could have improved earlier.
I've done fine, and I just play e5 immediately in this position.
Yeah, you have to. It's now or never. And
to unleash this, and it's pretty sound. I've had the same position also with a rook on d1 and a queen on e7.
Right. No, this should be okay for
and played
you.
the same move. So anyway, so he goes bishop g5, f6,
Yes.
bishop d2, f5.
Okay.
If he takes it, it's complicated.
Okay.
You get like this, kind of position.
Messy stuff. Okay, I'll trust you.
It's quite messy. I've had it before. So anyway, it's very playable.
Sure.
So he comes back. I play here. I think this whole line is not good for white in general at this point, or shouldn't it be, right?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of the Catalan is to make the g2 bishop better than the c8 bishop, and White has resoundingly failed at that goal at this point.
He definitely has, yeah. So. Okay, so bishop g5 here. Well, here's like a little side question that I didn't really like analyze, so I don't have any of my own work to do on this. But like, I thought of maybe playing bishop e7 in this position, and I just didn't know.
Don't tread the dark squared bishops. His dark squared bishop is bad, and it will.
It's struggling, right?
Yeah.
So I just played queen c7,
right.
Knight d2.
Yeah.
All right. Now the question is, this position here.
Yes.
It's sort of complicated strategically to me. In the game, I played this h6, bishop e3, knight f6.
No, don't like this.
c5.
Why do we let White play c5?
Bishop f8, bishop f4, queen f7. Okay, so that's the game.
Okay.
We'll get back to that. My main thought afterwards was maybe I should just play c5 here for black to get more space.
I don't think there's any maybe about it. This is your move.
Okay.
I mean,
good to know.
This is a pretty typical structure, and this is the move you want to make. I mean, the biggest asset you have here is like you're controlling his bishops pretty well. For example, if he wants to wake up his white squared bishop, he's going to have to play f3 at some point. And in order to do that, it's going to be very imperative that he controls the f4 square. So, like, for example, if you can imagine a scenario where white goes c5, kicks your bishop away, and then goes f3 and is ready to meet e3 with knight c4, like, things are starting to look pretty good for him. You absolutely need to not let your bishop get forced back and let his bishop become a good piece, because now it's going to be much easier for him to play f3.
Basically the exact position that we had, right? I mean, in the actual game.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably still more or less okay here, but this bishop on f8 is so bad now, and it's a really good piece normally.
Yeah. My secondary question to you is going to be how bad is this position? But first, let's look at
terrible.
But first, let's look at c5, because during the game, I don't think I even really noticed that he might play c5 for white. And then when he did, I was like, oh, this position's horrible. My bishop just got trapped on f8. His bishop's amazing. Obviously, his next move was knight c4. And it just feels like I've just been outposted on and like I've trashed my position. But in my analysis, it seemed like this was actually okay for black.
It probably is.
Even here. So that's something I'd like to discuss with you later. But first, let's look at c5 quickly, because I don't think it's going to take too long since we both agree. Yeah. I looked at c5. And it seemed like absolutely the right move for me for sure. But then I really don't know these dc5 or d5 structures enough. So I wasn't...
In both cases, white's much worse, I think.
So I wasn't sure. So I looked at d5, knight e5, and I thought...
white's in huge trouble here.
I thought that should be fine. I thought the only real plan for white is to play f3.
Which is going to be basically impossible to pull off.
So in my analysis, that's just what I kept looking at, was like... can white play f3? Is it a problem or not? And if they couldn't play f3, then I assumed my position was good. Is that a fair way to approach it?
I think your position is fine if he plays if he can get f3 through, you're fine, and if he can't get f3 through, you're much better.
Okay. Cool. So let's stop looking at d5 for a second. So then the main other move for white would be knight b3, right?
Sure.
Because the knight on d2 is bad, and now this knight creates some tension here. Now, in my analysis, I took on d4.
That seems very impatient.
Yeah, obviously it's like bringing the white knight to a good square, looking at b5 and f5 and stuff.
So there's two moves I would be considering here. Maybe
B6?
three. B6 is one.
Okay.
A5 is another for similar reasons. But also A6. With the point that I want to take on d4 next and then be able to play a move like knight c5 or knight e5 without running into knight b5.
That's what I did. I tried to save a tempo on a6, Sam, by being fancy.
I see, but this allows knight b5. Okay, but this is... You're losing control when you're underdeveloped. Maybe you'll get away with this. So what, it's queen c4, rook c1, a6 or something?
Mm-hmm.
So rook a c1, but I think white has to be doing well here after something like knight takes d6 and rook fd1. Like his pieces are... Maybe he's not better, but he has to be fine. Like his rooks are so good.
Okay. Yeah, this is what I came up with, and I looked at it, and, the computer said it was about equal.
Yeah, that's probably right. That seems fine. I would think that maybe this is okay. It just feels a little impatient to me. I mean, if you're not better anyway, this is totally a fine solution. But
right. But if your position might be good, you could just.
But like
just
after
wait.
a6, what's white's next move?
Probably putting rooks on d1 and c1, or maybe playing f3.
I don't think you're really ready for f3 here.
Yeah.
This is the thing, like f3, and black plays e3, you really need to be ready to not let him play f4. And that's why it's important to not let white play c5.
Right.
But if you play f4 yourself, now your bishop gets in trouble, and this is... Yeah, so you end up with a bishop stuck on h4, and that's not going to be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I mean, it's... E3 is not strictly necessary. You can also go c takes d4, I'm sure, but it looks pretty good.
And then this sort of a thing, right?
Yeah, but this is fine. Just like knight e5, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're ready to play d3 and queen c4. It's certainly fine for you.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we can play this position here patiently. We could play b6 or a6 or something.
Yeah, I also kind of like a5 and go immediately threaten a4 and force white to resolve the tension.
That's cool, because that move did not occur to me. I thought of a6, b6, c takes c4.
Also, this will help you develop the rook, because like the bishop on c8 doesn't really have a great square to go to, where it won't be vulnerable to some kind of an attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually kind of fine on c8. It just the rook needs to get out, and like being able to play a5, I think, helps it quite a bit.
Just getting some scope for this piece.
Yeah, for sure.
And if white plays a4?
Now, for example, b6 looks
now you play b6 and develop that way.
Yeah, and it should be very good for black. So...
and when white takes here, do we have to take with our pawn to keep his knight out of b5?
I don't think you have to, but it certainly looks very good. But also, I mean, here this looks horrible for a white. Like knight e5, knight d3, rook b8, like knight e5, bishop e6. Like everything hangs and white has nothing to do.
The white pieces are pretty discoordinated now.
Yeah, this knight on b3 is horrible.
Cool. All right, so yeah. All right, we're on the same page on c5. So c5 is nice.
Yes.
DL Mo, we answered that question like a second ago, but basically the answer is it's okay for black, but it's not as strong as waiting, because Sam thinks black might actually be slightly better in that position.
Yeah, I mean, also keep in mind this is just me. It's not the computer. I'm a very good chess player, but I can be wrong. You know, it's not unheard of.
Yeah, I mean, what I was looking for was, do you have some strategic experience with these positions or something close enough to
Yeah.
them to have an opinion already? And
Yeah,
so far, you do.
this almost feels like after c5 d5, it feels almost more like a Najdorf structure than a Catalan. I don't know if I've seen a lot of these structures in the Najdorf where white gets the protected pass pawn on d5 blockaded by the bishop on d6, and they usually work pretty well for black.
Normally, there's no e4, f2 pawns, right? In that kind of
No,
position.
that can also happen, like in the bishop e2 line where white goes like knight d5, and then it's like bishop takes d5, he takes d5, and then I know there's some. There was some. Hang on, how does this one go? It's like, yeah, it's like they go like knight c5. They go like bishop takes d5 ed, and then it's like knight c5, knight takes c5, dc5, and black just goes like bishop d6, knight d7, queen c7, rook a8, f5, e4, and just starts throwing stuff, and the pawn on d5 isn't that great. But yeah, so you wanted to see how the game actually went?
Yeah, so h6, knight here, c5.
Yeah, and my big concern is here that white is going to get f3.
Right.
So knight c4 seems like a good move because it will make it easier for him to play f3 later.
Right. He's controlling the e3 square. He can also cut off the e file and use that to play f3.
Yes.
Okay, but here's the thing. When I was looking at this, I actually, according to my analysis, it seemed like black was actually still kind of okay. And I did a variety of things for black and ended up okay. One thing that I did for black was just putting the light squared bishop on d5, and then if white plays f3, I'm willing to trade light squared bishops and plop a piece on e4. And if white doesn't play f3, I didn't really see a lot of other impressive plans for white.
Yeah, white has to play for f3. It's the only sensible plan.
Okay.
So how did your analysis go?
Well, I don't really remember it exactly. I just kind of remember like the conclusions, but I feel like it was kind of okay to just move this. What did I do? I think it's either queen h5 or bishop e6. Both seemed playable in my analysis. The idea of queen h5 was to play knight g4, make white play h3, and then just come back.
Can I play f3 though?
Yes, you could. And then did I play knight d5 there?
But then I can take on e4.
Let me just think a second. What did I do here?
This is the kind of position where, like, this knight d5 potentially sacrificing a pawn, it would make a lot more sense if your bishop on f8 wasn't so terrible. Yeah, this looks very dubious for black to me already.
So if I play bishop e6 here?
Then I will go knight e3.
Okay, and bishop d5?
So bishop, okay, hang on, now it's getting goofy. Bishop e5 seems very good for white.
Okay.
At least I don't see a move for you. Maybe you can play bishop e7.
What if I just take?
Then knight d5, right?
Okay, I take again.
And I'll take
rook f5.
Yeah, and white wins.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe you can play bishop e7 or knight d7 or something, but it looks very, very dubious.
Right, so maybe knight d7, right?
Like, yeah, if bishop e7, I'm very tempted to throw g4. And you could just get completely slaughtered in the center.
Right.
And I don't think you're going to give mate. So knight d7 feels more natural, but after, say, we take this one, I think you're losing control pretty fast here.
Right, it looks like black needs to take back.
With what?
I guess the bishop. White could like take and play rook f5 and queen e4 almost, right?
Yeah, it can also like retreat and go let you figure out how to deal with queen b3.
Yeah, I did find queen b3 in some lines for white as being pretty good.
Yeah, but like here the structure just ended up, and it all comes down to this stupid bishop on f8. It should not have been forced back there like that. Yeah, this This feels very good for white. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if rook f5, as you say, is even stronger. But even if we play a simple move, I think it looks very good for white.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's see what I did. I think I didn't play as good moves for white either when I was looking at this. But okay, let's say bishop e6 maybe.
Bishop e6 looks much more
which
natural.
Is the most logical move, right? Developing it and
also force white to make a decision with this knight.
Right.
Because, for example, I think the knight's best square is e3, but it's harder to go there now because there will be g5 and knight d7.
Yeah, and I think in my analysis, I mostly looked at the knight going to like e5 or d6 or something, and I didn't look at many lines with the knight on e3.
Knight d6 is ridiculous. I mean, why would you ever let this bishop take it?
Yeah.
But knight e5 is...
I mean, you say it's ridiculous, but I would say for like people, 1,000 or 2,000 points lower than you, like the idea is like we're getting this supremacy on the dark squares that feels like unchallenged or something.
You've got Paris Hilton on d6, and the bishop on f8 was so bad, and the knight on c4 was white's best piece.
Right. So you want to go to e3, and the concern is that maybe black can play g5.
I mean, I think e3 is the best square, but g5 looks bothersome. And I don't know. I mean, bishop e5, and after knight d7, f4, it could get goofy, but I mean, this looks extremely complicated. It's like, for example, after e takes f3, it looks like both sides are completely lost strategically, and who's more lost is the question. But,
yeah.
We got a position like this one, and it feels like both sides should have their positions should be collapsing. It looks like to me, it looks like black's is collapsing harder, but I'm not totally sure.
And on this move,
yeah, like this is the kind of thing. Knight takes f5,
okay,
well, this is going to get very goofy very fast. Essentially,
right.
What do we have now? Like bishop f5, rook f5. Can we go rook e5, bishop d4, and king f7? Probably not, but it will get very messy very fast in the coming moves. I think it looks pretty good for white intuitively, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think e3 is clearly the square the knight wants to go to. But also, like, for example, black can play knight d5, which also could be a really annoying. I want this knight to stay alive.
Right. Yeah, we just want to simplify this situation a little bit.
Yeah, and this could... this is probably okay for black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that clarity.
Yeah.
Well, I'd learned some things, which I think I wasn't totally wrong about the things I learned, but there were also things that I didn't really look at. Like I didn't look at really trying to get the knight to e3.
Yeah, well, I think that's clearly the knight's best score, and I think bishop e6 is a very good move because it's forcing white to choose what to do with the knight right now. When, if, for example, if he were to put the knight on e5, I think that the knight d5 plan doesn't make as much sense, but against knight e3, it makes a lot more sense. So
right.
Just force white to make up his mind about this guy, or to burn a tempo with something stupid like b3.
Right. Against the knight on e5, I was kind of just putting my bishop on d5 to be ready for f3. My queen was sitting on h5. And
right. And basically, that kind of position, like here, if you do something like, I don't know, say f3, bishop d5, like this position we just saw with the knight on e3 could be a train wreck for you, but with the knight on e5, I think like it's just looks good and doesn't actually do anything.
Man, it's amazing. White has outposts on d6 and e5 that look like classically like just destruction outposts.
But they don't do anything from these squares.
The knight should be on e3.
Yeah, well, d6 is senseless because it allows black to trade off his worst piece for white's best one. But the knight on e5, I mean, it really comes down to getting f3 through under the right circumstances. And I think for that, the knight clearly belongs on e3, so it can control the d5 square and pressure the f5 pawn, as we saw in all these lines. But it may be that we can't get it there. I mean, it's not very intuitive for me to play this way with black, to let the bishop get stuck on f8, and I'm not fully convinced, but this, at least from what we're looking at, it seems like he's probably okay.
Yeah. Let me go back one move. What about throwing in g5 here? Is that ever...
dubious.
Dubious, right?
I don't know why you would.
Well, I was thinking to maybe get some space because somebody in chat was asking about g4, which was the idea you used previously, and I wasn't sure
this is a
what to do
serious
with it.
No, this is a move you always have to be worried about. It looks very strong here, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't think g5 necessarily helps you. Like maybe bishop d5 is not best, but okay. Like for example, so what if we start with rook d8, like make a natural developing move, and then put the ball back in white's court.
Right.
Yeah, I would be very worried about g4 in various circumstances, but I mean, with the queen on h5, it sort of feels like you're begging for it, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very messy.
Yeah. And if they play g4, you're in mortal danger, but it's also a complicated position. Like, you don't know for sure that you're dead.
If g4 comes through under good circumstances, you definitely lose, but
Okay.
you'd have to be pretty foolish to let it through under like pristine circumstances for white. If it comes through and it's risky, you know, okay, you might suffocate under the center, but also throw some stuff at his king.
Right.
I like centralizing the rooks as well as a good start. I mean, after rook a8, just let white decide what to do here. Feels very natural.
I mean, most likely they just answer by defending their pawn.
Already, we're very happy to have included these moves. I mean, black's rook is better than black's rook has improved more than white's. There's tactical energy with a2 hanging, d4, c5 hanging. None of it works right now, but it could work later, and it's going to be useful to have available. So
yeah, definitely. Like, I feel the trade of these rooks as really being more tactical potential for black to like have some kind of.
It's also strategic. Like you put your rook attacking a weak white pawn on an active score. He put his rook on a passive score defending it.
Right. It's a normal that creates more tactical possibilities for the active versus the defensive. Yeah.
For sure.
All right, so we can just play this, and if white plays fe4...
So like, for example, I see an interesting line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it works, but this one might be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about the queen being on d1 as well.
With bishop f3, there's rook d4, and then I think white gets away with it. I don't think it works here, but...
like bishop h5, rook c4, queen f2?
Yeah, this seems okay, and white wins. But also white could just move his king. The rook is hanging on h8, but on e8. But it doesn't work here, but this is like the kind of thing that, you know, can potentially become available to you. There's more tactical shots.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Now, let's say that for some reason we had nothing to do here as black, and we just played like a6, and white took. Can I feel free to go like this?
Yeah.
Can I play a position like this?
Yeah, definitely. I think this bishop on d5 is so good that I wouldn't worry too much here.
It's so good that things become playable, right? And I can try and eventually bring this bishop here.
Yeah, I mean, I would think g5, bishop g7 is more direct, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This looks... I would prefer black at this point.
Cool. I could even grab a2 first if I were worried about the pawn count.
Yeah, but I mean, this is very cooperative from white going and taking like this.
Yeah, I was just making sure that I am willing to just play knight e4 if white takes.
Well, you have to be careful. I mean, for example, I think here after fe4, knight e4, now is one of those moments where g4 murders you.
Okay. You do always want to be careful if you're just going to be murdered.
You would have had to have taken with the pawn on e4 first. And this should be fine.
Which should still also be fine, right?
Yeah, I think unless white has a very compelling reason to do so, he should not take on e4. This just opens up bishop h3 and loses the option of playing g4.
Cool. Yeah.
Also walks into knight g4. Like there's a million reasons not to take on e4. The only reason you would take it is there's something very direct. So I think that unless there's some very serious move right now, it would be very foolish to take the pawn.
Great. You've answered my third question.
What was that?
Sorry, you've answered my second question. Now it's time for my third question.
Okay.
All right. Now, hopefully I can remember all these things. I think I might be able to.
Okay. Well, you have it. It'll be recorded in your Twitch history, right?
So I can rewatch my own video.
Yeah. There you go.
That's right. I can watch your lesson again and again.